of repackaging.
So there's a lot going wrong, according to Prof.
A lot.
In your opinion, Dismus, very quickly, where does the solution lie?
Now, Professor Gela has raised the fundamental issues. Now, President Kenyatta, President Moi, President Kibaki, President Kenyatta, and now President Ruto, all of them have got their different leadership styles and philosophies. So you cannot fault President Ruto for his grassroots leadership philosophy. That he makes policy pronouncements when he wants to, because, you know, he's the president, so he's got capacity and competence to do all this. Now, the president's pronouncements around sugar, curiously, have received bipartisan support in Western Kenya. Leaders both from Kenya Kwanza and Azimio are happy with the pronouncements the president has made, meaning that the elected representatives and the entire leadership in Western Kenya who can be disciplined in the next 4 years if they do not respond to their voters' wishes have given these pronouncements their green light. That is number one. And then number two, Professor Gola says that he was one of the advisors of President Kibaki on how they pronounced the policy. But the same situation is obtaining today. The cabinet has given its approval on the privatization and restructuring of the sugar sector. Now the same is at the National Assembly, waiting for the elected representatives to transform it to make it into law so that we can go to privatization. So while the president is making the remarks when he's visiting his employers in Western Kenya, the legal process is taking place. So I don't see any contradiction. But the elephant in the room is always about this privatization. As privatization worked in Kenya, yes, largely in many organizations, and you know you can name them, like Safaricom, it's been a huge success. One may not say the same about Kenyaways, but you know Safaricom stands out as a good example where privatization works. And at the end of the day, as we have this conversation, we must ask ourselves, whose interest, whose agenda are we driving? Are we driving the farmer's agenda? Are we driving the consumer's agenda? And who is this who wants to frustrate the farmer? Who is this who wants to frustrate the consumer? When you answer that question, then now you go to leadership that Professor Gola speaks about. And I'll keep on repeating these statistics. That you have 16 sugar mills company in Kenya. 75% are making profits. And those 75%, all of them are in the private sector. What is the magic that when you're running a private company, it makes profits, and when you're running a public one, it makes losses? And then there's the issue that the leaders in Western Kenya, they need to rise up and stand to the occasion. But when UDA and ANC, as well as Ford Kenya, were signing the coalition agreement, high in the priority list was the sugar sector in Western Kenya, the issue of roads, and in all those county economic fora, those issues were addressed. They went into a matrix indicated priority list. Now, when they're being addressed, then you've got another people saying, wait a minute, there is a crisis here. But the people, through their leadership, have identified there is a crisis and they want to sort it out. Now, the elephant in the room, obviously, is, can we now address the cost of production in Kenya?
Right. Yeah,
you know, you look at the energy, you look at fertilizer, you look at the equipment and everything else, so that the Kenyan farmer starts smiling. And the side has indicated the issue of payments. And you know, that can be sorted out easily by having bulletproof contract farming. That if you are in a breach, somebody is going to inflict pain. That you don't run around. And again, there's another crisis in Western Kenya. Because farmers want to be paid in good time, they're always in a hurry to sell their cane. So in the process, they compromise on the quality of the sugar and also the quality of the payment. So in my view, since the president has given this issue, and Musalia Mudavadi, as well as Wetangula, and the entire leadership of Kenya, save for a few Azimio MPs, let now the process go to the National Assembly,
right,
where elected leaders will discuss, engage in very agile public participation, so that when you come up with a piece of legislation, it's a legislation which, number one, benefits the Kenyan consumer, and number two, benefits the Kenyan farmer. Because, you know, the Kenyan consumer doesn't care whether the sugar is coming from Bungoma or Mauritius or Thailand. They want affordable sugar. But the farmer wants to get a good return on investment.
All right.
So those are the two variables that we must balance.
Stereo, as we wind this up, from where you sit, which is very near to the crux of the matter, where does the solution largely lie?
Thank you, Kitili. First, before I come to the solution, I want to just tell my brother Mokua that private millers were flourishing because basically they were poaching cane developed by the public millers. That's why they made more profit.